what we are going to see now is about erythrocyte sedimentation rate. Are you able to see the slide? Yes? Okay, fine. So, in the previous class, I have told you about the different methods of diagnosing diseases. So nowadays there are so many methods, advanced techniques. Now the glucose level can be estimated by a small prick. Okay, the glucometers are there, where by a small prick can you insert that droplet into a small strips, okay, which will be attached to a glucometer. You can immediately read the level of glucose, okay, from the monitor of the glucometer. But it utilizes the glucose oxidase method or glucose peroxidase method. So many principles are involved, and nowadays everything is made very simple. Lab on a chip. So many things can be diagnosed. No, the BP can be monitored. The heart level can be monitored. No, you go to a hospital. A small clipping of the finger will show you everything. The ECG, the blood pressure, everything will be there in the monitor. Okay, so previously in those days, the I mean, with less invasive techniques. Okay, where there is a taking blood is a very less invasive technique. Taking saliva, taking urine is a non-invasive technique because saliva you can just spit it out. Urine is an excretory product, so it is a non-invasive diagnostic tool. But taking a blood, you have to use a needle and prick the vein and draw the blood. So here you are not, involving any a very open invasive method. That is, suppose you are doing an operation, okay, or you are inserting an endoscopic tube, okay, into the mouth and see the contents of the gas to the stomach and the intestine. Okay, you are inserting a tube, so that is an invasive method. Okay, so other invasive methods, you want to see what is happening inside the heart, something has gone wrong, then you undergo a surgery, heart surgery, where it is an open heart surgery. Nowadays, no, doing the operations, for example, to remove the kidney stone or to do the hysterectomy, that is fallopian tube, no, hysterectomy, vasectomy, some small kind of surgeries can be done by laparoscopy. That is, three holes will be made, and the necessary instruments will be inserted. It will be monitored using a camera, and the operation will be performed from the outside, isn't it? So these are all, I mean, instead of opening the full portion of the abdomen and causing stitches and all that, these are all small that is by drilling three holes. Okay, whatever may be, these are less invasive techniques. So like that, drawing blood is a very less invasive technique where you use a syringe and a needle to draw blood. Okay, so once the blood is drawn, here erythrocyte sedimentation rate was a very primitive and a very useful method for analyzing the differences in the blood cells. So when the blood is allowed to stand for some time, what will happen? It will settle down. So when the viscosity, the nature, the time taken for the settling of the blood, okay, the concentration of the RBC, WBC, and the platelets will all lead to the diagnosis of disease to a certain extent, not to a great extent, to a certain extent. So ESR, erythrocyte sedimentation rate, okay, it is a method by which the rate at which the erythrocytes settle down are calculated. Okay, so usually the red blood cells, when they are the blood is taken, and if it is if an anticoagulant is added or not, if it is allowed to stand for some time, or if it is allowed to centrifuge, then the cells will settle down at the bottom. Suppose you are using an anticoagulant, then the clot formation can be avoided, and the cells can be allowed to settle. Okay, so usually the cells, RBC cells, remain suspended uniformly in the circulation. That is why the blood taken from the tip of the toe or the vein will all be the same, because the red blood cells will be suspended uniformly throughout the body. So this nature of the blood is called as the suspension stability of the blood. Okay, suspension stability of the RBC. So this suspension stability of the RBC is possible because of the presence of proteins, plasma proteins. So the plasma proteins only enable the, the concentration to be the same throughout the blood. Okay, so here when the tubes there's blood added by an anticoagulant, that is allowed to settle down under gravity. That is what is the principle used here in the erythrocyte sedimentation rate. What will happen is clear supernatant plasma will be seen above, and the cells will settle at the bottom. So ESR is a very important tool. It is called, as we said, erythrocyte sedimentation rate, okay, or the SED rate. So it was first demonstrated by this person Edmund Bernanke in 1897. Okay, so the determination of the ESR can be done by two methods, by the Westergren method and the Winthrop method. So you can see two tubes standing there. One is the longer tube called as the Westergren tube, and the other one is the smaller tube called as the Winthrop tube. So the Westergren tube is longer, 300 millimeter long, and it is open on both the ends. Okay, so it will be made to stand on a rubber platform so that the blood does not leak. So it is marked from 0 to 200, okay, from above downwards. So it is used for determining the ESR. So here about 1.6 ml of blood will be mixed with the 0.4 ml of the anticoagulant, whether it is a sodium citrate or some other anticoagulant, and loaded onto the Westergren tube. So the ratio of the blood and the anticoagulant will be 4:1. Then the tube is fitted to the stand and made to stand on the rubber platform, and it will be left undisturbed. Then at the end of 1 hour, the reading will be taken. Okay. The same way, Winthrop tube. When you take the Winthrop tube, it is a short tube when you compare it with the Westergren tube. It is also open. It is open only on one end. Okay, when compared to the Westergren tube, this is open on one end. The length will be 110 millimeter long. Okay, smaller with a 3 millimeter diameter. So this is also used for determining the ESR. So it is marked on both the sides. Okay, on one side the marking is from 0 to 100, and the other side, that is this side, it will be for ESR, and on the other side it will be marked from 100 to 0 for PCV, packed cell volume. Okay, here also 1 ml the same of the blood will be mixed with the anticoagulant. Here the anticoagulant used will be EDTA. It will be loaded in the tube up to the 0 mark, and the tube is also placed on a rubber platform and made to stand. Okay, so after 1 hour the reading will be taken. So this is how you can see the normal values. So you can see the difference between the Westergren tube and the Winthrop tube. Normal values by Westergren method, in male it is 3 to 7 millimeter in 1 hour. In females 5 to 9 millimeter in 1 hour, and 0 to 2 millimeter in 1 hour for infants. By Winthrop method, you can see the ESR value 0 to be 9 millimeter in 1 hour for males. For females, it is 0 to 115 millimeter, and for infants, it is 0 to 5 millimeter in 1 hour. So this is the ESR. So what is the significance of ESR? Why is it used? It is very easy and inexpensive. You have to draw only 1 ml of blood, and it is a general test. Helps in the diagnosis as well as in the prognosis. Okay, so it will help in the confirm a particular diagnosis, a particular disease or something. It can be confirmed, but it does not indicate what type of disease. Okay, so it is generally used, helpful in assessing the patients before the treatment and after the treatment for these kind of diseases: pulmonary tuberculosis, rheumatoid arthritis, polymyalgia rheumatica, temporal artery arthritis, inflammation of the arteries of the head, etc. Now, what is the difference? What is when does the value of the ESR vary? Now you have seen the normal value. What will happen when it becomes more or less? Okay, in physiological variation and pathological variation. So pathology is during some disease. Physiological means age, sex, and other metabolic pregnancy related time. So in children and infants, no, ESR is less because of more number of RBC. So ESR is less means they will settle down very fast. Okay. So in females, it is more in females and less in male. Whereas during menstruation, ESR increases during menstruation because of the loss of blood and RBC. Okay, so this is what is happening. It is less here. In pregnancy, from the third month to parturition, ESR increases up to 35 millimeter in 1 hour because of hemodilution. RBC will be not present. Hemodilution, the volume of water will be more. Pathological variation. ESR increases in diseases such as uh, tuberculosis, anemia, malignant tumors, rheumatoid arthritis, rheumatoid fever, liver disease, etc. And ESR increases. So ESR decreases in the conditions like allergy. That is the time taken. Time taken will be very less because of the presence of large number of cells. So here ESR is the time taken. Sedimentation rate increases. More number of time for settling in these type of things. Whereas the time taken will be less for allergy condition because there will be a lot of cells, immunoglobulin cells, etc. Sickle cell anemia, peptone shock, polycythemia, severe leukocytosis, etc. The condition will be ESR will be uh, decreased. Now, what are the factors affecting ESR? Okay, factors increasing ESR and factors decreasing ESR. The specific gravity of the RBC affects the ESR. So, what happens when the specific gravity of the RBC increases? The cells become heavier and sedimentation is fast. That is why the ESR increases. When the number of RBC cell increases, what will happen? The specific gravity of the uh, RBC also become more. So the heavier the RBC, the faster it will settle down. So ESR will be faster. Rulex formation. We told when the blood is taken out from the body, if you place it on a slide, the RBC cells will form a coin like that is a pile of coins. That is the Rulex formation. So Rulex formation increases the ESR. Globulin and fibrinogen will accelerate the Rulex formation. Then again, the size of the RBC, when it is these are all abnormalities. When the RBC increases in size it is called as macrocyte. Then also ESR increases. Okay, when it is decreasing, the time taken decreases viscosity of the blood. So viscosity offers resistance for settling of RBC. So when the viscosity of blood is increased, it will prevent the not allow the RBCs to settle down fast. Okay, so when the viscosity increases, ESR decreases. RBC count. When RBC count increases, again the viscosity of the blood is increased and ESR decreases. Okay, so this also will have a change in the ESR. Now packed cell volume. So what is we'll see the PCV and the blood indices. What are the other blood indices involved in the diagnosis? So what is the packed cell volume? See, this is the packed cell volume. You can see the red color, the cell settling at the bottom, and this is the plasma. This is called as the hematocrit. Okay, so it is the proportion of the blood occupied by the RBC expressed in percentage. So the percentage of this tube occupied by the RBC, that is called as the packed cell volume. Okay, so it is the volume of the RBC packed at the bottom of the hematocrit tube. So this is called as the hematocrit value or erythrocyte volume fraction. Next, why is PCV important? Okay, so the PCV helps in the determination and diagnosis of anemia, the treatment and diagnosis of polycythemia, treatment and the extent of dehydration and recovery from dehydration, decision of blood transfusion. இதெல்லாம் PCV is very important. Okay, it is a very small test, but it is very valuable. So PCV increases during polycythemia. Polycythemia is increase in RBC, dehydration, so decreased volume, increase the number of cells, dengue shock. Okay, so all this will lead to increase in the PCV. So the normal PCV. Okay, so what is the PCV? 40 to 45% in males and 38 to 42% for females. So the PCV value may decrease during anemia, see less RBC. Okay, so it decreases. The percentage decreases. Cirrhosis of the liver, pregnancy, hemorrhage. So during these conditions, the PCV may decrease. So what are the blood indices? So apart from ESR, PCV, see there are so many other terms: MCV, MCH, MCHC, CI color indices. So they are all very important. Okay, there is the to see the blood count, hemoglobin count. Okay, and the content of the blood. All these things you can use this. So what is MCD? Mean corpuscular volume. MCH is mean corpuscular hemoglobin. MCHC is mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration, and Ci is the color index. So what you can see here is, MCV. MCV is the average volume of the single RBC. So ஒரு ஆர்பிசியோட வால்யூம் எவ்வளவு இடம் ஆக்குபை பண்ணிருக்கு அப்படின்றதுதான் MCV, mean corpuscular volume. It is the average volume of a single RBC. So you can determine the size, whether the RBC is smaller in size or it is bigger in size. Okay, so accordingly, if it is normal, it is called as normocyte. Size பெருசா இருந்தா the RBC is called as the macrocyte. சின்னதா இருந்தா it is called as the microcyte. Okay, so it is expressed in cubic microns. This is the normal MCV or value na 90 cubic microns, 78 to 90 cubic microns. So எப்ப macrocytic பெருசா இருக்கும்னா in pernicious anemia, megaloblastic anemia ல the size ஓட RBC ஓட single RBC ஓட size வந்து பெருசா இருக்கும். Whereas iron deficiency anemia ல RBC ஓட size சின்னதா இருக்கும், microcytic. Next, MCH, mean corpuscular hemoglobin. So what is this? It is the quantity or amount of hemoglobin present in RBC. எவ்வளவு இருக்கு, எவ்வளவு RBC இருக்கு. அது வந்து previous thing வந்து what we have seen is about a single RBC. This is about amount or quantity of RBC. Quantity of hemoglobin present in one RBC. ஒரு RBC குள்ள எவ்வளவு அளவு hemoglobin இருக்கு. So it is expressed in microgram or picogram. Okay, so spelling mistake. So normal value is 30 pg. So what is this? The amount of hemoglobin in one RBC, that is MCH. Okay, MCHC அப்படினா என்னது? This is the concentration of hemoglobin in one RBC. Okay, slight difference. This is the amount of hemoglobin. Here it is the concentration of hemoglobin in one RBC. It is the amount of hemoglobin expressed in relation to the volume of it is expressed in relation to just like A by G ratio madri. So it is an important absolute value in the diagnosis of anemia. So anemia kandupidikkiradhu is very very important. Normal value is 30%. Okay, when the MCHC is normal, the RBC is called as normochromic. முன்னாடி என்ன பார்த்தோம்? cytic, normocytic, macrocytic, microcytic. Here when the MCHC is normal, it is called as normochromic. When the MCHC decreases, it is called as hypochromic. That is the concentration of hemoglobin in one RBC decreases, it is called as hypochromic. So இதெல்லாம் எங்க பார்க்கலாம் அப்படின்னா in pernicious anemia and megaloblastic anemia, RBCs are macrocytic, பெருசாவும் இருக்கும், இல்லனா நார்மல் ஹீமோகுளோபின் கான்சன்ட்ரேஷன் நார்மலா இருக்கும், இல்லனா ஹைப்போ கம்மியா இருக்கும். In iron deficiency anemia also RBCs are microcytic. இதுல டிஃபரன்ஸ் பாருங்க. pernicious anemia-ல megaloblastic, that is macrocytic-ஆ இருக்கும், இங்க வந்து சைஸ் சின்னதா இருக்கும், microcytic, and hypochromic. Concentration of hemoglobin will be less. A single RBC cannot be hyperchromic because the amount of hemoglobin cannot increase beyond normal. Okay, இதுக்கு வந்து ஹைப்பர்க்ரோமிக்கா இருக்க வாய்ப்பு இல்லை. ஒண்ணுல நார்மலா இருக்கும், இல்லனா கம்மியா இருக்கும், ஜாஸ்தியா இருக்க வாய்ப்பு இல்லை. Next is color index. So what is the color index? It's the ratio between the percentage of hemoglobin and percentage of RBC in the blood. So hemoglobin ku RBC ku irukra percentage. Okay, ratio between the percentage of hemoglobin and percentage of RBC in the blood. That is the color index. So it is the average hemoglobin content in one cell of a patient compared to the average hemoglobin content in one cell of a normal person. So it is a comparison between a patient and a normal person. So now the normal color index will be 1.8 to 1.2. So it is determined whether a person is suffering from anemia or not. Okay, anemia and kandupidikkiradhu. So the color index can increase in macrocytic anemia and megaloblastic anemia. It can reduce in iron deficiency anemia. Whereas in normocytic, normochromic anemia, it is normal. So these are some of the calculations you can go through. I think it is visible. The blood indices are calculated by different formula. So the different calculations are given. The color index, hemoglobin percentage, RBC percentage. By using these two values, color index can be calculated. See here you can see MCV. MCV is equal to PCV in ml in 1000 ml of blood. by RBC count in millions per cubic millimeter of blood. So MCV is calculated like this. You can see one example is given. Then mean corpuscular hemoglobin, it is the hemoglobin in grams per 1000 ml of blood by RBC count in million per cubic millimeter. Whereas the hemoglobin percentage here, it is calculated by hemoglobin content in the subject by the hemoglobin content in normal person. It is calculated, there is a ratio compared between a patient and a normal person into 100. That is a percentage. RBC percentage is again calculated by RBC count in the subject or the patient by RBC count in the normal person into 100. Okay, so the normal values are given. CI is 0.67, MCV is 75 cubic microns, MCH is 20 picogram, and MCHC is then given in percentage 26.67 percentage. So this calculations you can just go through. Okay. Next, what we are going to see is about anemia. So anemia is a serious condition which is most often occurring in the female. Okay, because so many metabolic reactions are taking. So I cannot say that it is not happening in the male. Okay, but this is a very important blood disorder which has to be taken care right from the small child to the adult. Okay, it is very important. So this what is it? Main characterization of anemia is the red blood count decreases. Okay, hemoglobin content decreases. So packed cell volume also decreases. So this is the three things: RBC count, hemoglobin content, and packed cell volume. These are the three things which has to be taken into consideration. So generally, there is a reduction in the RBC count, hemoglobin content, and the PCV because the RBC production gets affected. Okay, the RBC undergoes destruction very rapidly, or when there is excessive loss of blood from the body during accident or during normal physiological cycle. So all these will lead to some disorder. Okay, it can be a disorder which is happening for a short period, or it can be some inherited disorder, or environmental disorders like nutritional problems. சரியான iron நம்ம பார்த்த vitamin C, B அதெல்லாம் சாப்பிடாதனால then intrinsic factor அதெல்லாம் சரியா இல்லாதனால சிலது can be intrinsic, சிலது can be extrinsic. Those which are caused due to nutrition, infection, drugs or toxins are extrinsic. Other erythropoietin or சரியா இது பண்ணல, intrinsic factor சரியா வேலை செய்யல, all these are extrinsic and intrinsic. Okay, now what is the morphological classification? Anemia, how can it be classified? As we have seen in the previous few slides, okay, it is the terms normocytic, normochromic. Okay, that is the size and the color, content of hemoglobin. Comparing the size of the RBC and the hemoglobin content, they can be classified as normocytic, normochromic anemia. Here the size and color of RBC are normal, but the number of RBC is less. Macrocytic normochromic anemia is RBC macro. The RBC are larger in size with normal color. RBC count is less. Okay. Chromic means color. Color indicates the presence of hemoglobin. Macrocytic hypochromic anemia, it means RBC size is larger, MHC is less. Okay, color is less. Cells are pale. Okay, anemia is less colored. Microcytic hypochromic anemia, the cells are smaller with less color because of the less concentration of hemoglobin. So what is the condition classification? Hemorrhage, okay, accident or internal hemorrhage or anything bleeding lead to hemorrhagic anemia. Hemolytic anemia, when there is a destruction of RBC cells, it will lead to hemolytic anemia. Then if there is any nutritional deficiency, that will lead to nutritional deficiency anemia. Aplastic anemia is another condition we will see below. Then anemia of chronic diseases. Okay, all these are different types of anemia which we are going to see now. So this is a table now which shows all these the size of the RBC and the hemoglobin content. Now we will see what is hemorrhagic anemia. Excessive loss of blood, maybe due to accident or something else. Okay, so it can be acute or chronic. So acute means sudden loss of large quantity of blood in the case of accident. So within 24 hours there should be a proper blood transfusion and the blood should be replaced. Okay, so the replacement of RBC does not occur quickly. It takes at least 4 to 6 weeks. So with less number of RBC, hemodilution. So RBC கம்மியா இருக்கு, water level ஜாஸ்தியா இருக்குன்னா it will lead to hemodilution. So morphologically, the RBCs are normocytic and normochromic. So decreased RBC count then it will lead to hypoxia. Oxygen transport will not, oxygen பற்றாக்குறை. So which stimulates the bone marrow to produce more number of RBC by erythropoiesis. So the condition where the blood is lost due to accident can be corrected within 4 to 6 weeks. Chronic. What is chronic? There is a loss of blood by internal or external bleeding for a long period of time. So இது எப்ப நடக்கும்? Peptic ulcer, so like kind of internal hemorrhage, internal disease, hemophilia, this condition can happen. Okay, so here because of the loss of blood internally, there is a loss of iron, which leads to iron deficiency anemia. Okay, so this affects the synthesis. Iron illana hemoglobin சரியா synthesize ஆக முடியாது. So the RBC becomes microcytic, சின்ன size, and hypochromic. Hemoglobin content also will be less. So this is a table showing the different hemorrhagic anemia, hemolytic anemia, nutrition deficiency, aplastic anemia, and the anemia of chronic diseases are shown. The causes and the morphology are shown here. Next is the hemolytic anemia. Hemolytic means destruction of RBC. So here, because of the destruction, RBC production gets affected. So it is classified into, I told you, extrinsic hemolytic anemia and intrinsic hemolytic anemia. So in here, extrinsic hemolytic anemia is caused by destruction of RBC by external factors. So what are the external factors? Healthy RBCs are hemolyzed by factors outside the blood cells, such as antibodies. So when antibodies can attack the RBC, chemicals and drugs can attack the RBC and destroy them. So this will lead to this extrinsic hemolytic anemia. Okay, it's called as autoimmune hemolytic anemia. They can be autoimmune, self-destruction. So they can be caused by liver failure, renal disorder, hyperthyroidism, burns. So burns also will lead to this condition. Infections like hepatitis, malaria, septicemia, drugs like penicillin, anti-malarial drugs and sulfur drugs, poisoning by lead, coal or tar, presence of isoagglutinin like anti-RH, and some autoimmune diseases also will lead to this extrinsic hemolytic anemia. Intrinsic hemolytic anemia, here the destruction of RBC is caused because of the defective RBC. So the RBC is defective. For example, thalassemia mutation, some alpha thalassemia, beta thalassemia, etc. Hemoglobinopathies. Okay, so that is the condition. Sickle cell anemia. This is one example. Sickle cell anemia. It is an inherited blood disorder where the RBC, instead of the biconcave shape, it will be in the shape of the sickle cell. So here it is called as the hemoglobin SS disease. So here there is a abnormal hemoglobin where the alpha chains are normal and beta chains are abnormal. Okay, so this is one condition. Thalassemia is another condition. So the alpha thalassemia, beta thalassemia, what we have seen before. So where the alpha chain and the beta chain gets affected. Next is nutrition deficiency anemia. So in this nutrition deficiency anemia, because the process of erythropoiesis, formation and production of RBC gets affected because of the deficiency of nutritive food, that is iron, protein, vitamins like C, B12 and folic acid. So when these sets of substances are absent in the food or lesser in the food, it will lead to nutrition related deficiency anemia. So one example is iron deficiency anemia. This the iron content in the food, is availability of iron for the hemoglobin synthesis is absent because of the inadequate iron supply in the food. So here the RBC might become smaller in size and also the hemoglobin content will become less. So the cause of iron deficiency anemia can be loss of blood, a decreased intake of iron, absorption of iron is very poor from the intestine, increased demand for iron in conditions of growth and pregnancy. So in growth and pregnancy, more and more blood cells are synthesized, so more and more iron are required. So we have to take the iron in the form of medicine. Okay, so other features of what happens during iron deficiency anemia, the nails will become brittle, hair also will become brittle, the papilla will reduce in the tongue, dysphagia, difficulty in swallowing. Sometimes the protein deficiency anemia will lead to macrocytic and hypochromic RBC. Next is the pernicious anemia. Pernicious anemia is because deficiency of vitamin B12. This is also called as the Addison's anemia. So here what happens, the gastric mucosa, that is the autoimmune destruction of the parietal cells. Parietal cells, as we all know, it gives rise to the intrinsic factor, okay, Castle factor. So when the Castle factor is absent, it will not facilitate the absorption of vitamin B12 cyanocobalamin from the intestine. So this will lead to pernicious anemia. Okay, so here what will happen? The synthesis of hemoglobin is almost normal, and the cells will become macrocytic and normochromic or hypochromic. So this is a type of anemia, pernicious. And next is the megaloblastic anemia. It is because of the deficiency of maturation factor called as the folic acid. When the folic acid is absent, it will lead to megaloblastic anemia. Here, because of the absence of folic acid, the DNA synthesis gets affected. It becomes defective, and the nucleus will become immature. So, what is the nature of the RBC? It is megaloblastic and hypochromic. Okay, so this will lead to neurological disorders. Next is aplastic anemia. So this is a disorder of the red bone marrow. So what happens? Red bone marrow, no, it becomes as a person ages. Okay, increases in age, the red bone marrow is reduced and it is replaced by fatty tissues. Fat accumulation of fat in the bone. Okay, yellow formation of the bones is called as the this kind of thing. So here, what will happen? The production of RBC cells will get affected. It can also be formed when there is repeated exposure of X-ray or gamma radiation, or during some bacterial toxins, gold, salt, benzene, radium, etc. Tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is also severe infection of the tuberculosis bacteria will lead to it will affect the bone, spinal cord, and so on. So it will also affect the production of RBC. Viral infection, hepatitis, HIV, that will also lead to this infection of the red bone marrow. So the RBC cells will get affected. Production of RBC cells will get affected. Fifth type of anemia is anemia of chronic disease. So any chronic diseases, okay, rheumatoid arthritis or some other chronic infections, that is a mycotuberculosis, chronic renal failure. So renal failure, na erythropoietin will get affected. Okay, neoplasm, that is the cancer, Hodgkin's disease, some malignancy. Okay, during this cases, chronic diseases also, it will lead to the formation of anemia. It can be microcytic, normocytic, or normochromic or hypochromic anemia. Okay, so what is the signs and symptoms of anemia? We all know that very well. Kannu kadila the eyes will be very pale, the nails will be very pale. Okay, that is the skin and the mucous membrane becomes pale. So you can find out very easily whether a person is suffering from anemia or not. So the paleness is more constant and prominent in buccal and pharyngeal mucous membrane. Okay, conjunctiva, lips, earlobes, palm, and nail bed. So skin loses elasticity and becomes thin and dry. Skin will not be healthy. Okay, it will be loose, thin, elastic. Okay, so early grayness of hair color also becomes affected. The cardiovascular disease also will get affected. So there is an increase in heart rate. Increase in heart rate, this condition is called as tachycardia, and cardiac output also increases. So what happens? Heart is dilated and cardiac murmurs are produced. So when there is severe anemia, this will result. Respiration also gets affected. Okay, there will be, because of the deficiency of oxygen, the lungs will force itself and respire very fast, increased rate of respiration and forced respiration. Okay, to get more oxygen. So it will lead to breathlessness, dyspnea, difficulty in breathing, etc. So oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve is also affected. Digestion. So when the person is suffering from anemia, sucoric acid, nausea, vomiting, abdominal discomfort, constipation, everything will happen. Metabolism also gets severely affected. There will be kidney failure, reproductive system gets affected, and it will lead to menorrhagia, oligomenorrhea, amenorrhea. What does it mean? That is the amount of blood that is excreted also will get affected. Then neuromuscular system gets affected. That is, they will show some symptoms of dizziness, irritation, drowsiness, vertigo, okay, fainting, fatigue. All this will happen. So these are the conditions. Okay. So hemolysis and fragility of RBC. What is hemolysis? That is the destruction of the RBC. That is called as the hemolysis. So it is a process which involves the breakdown of RBC and liberation of hemoglobin. So that is called as hemolysis. Breakdown of RBC and liberation of hemoglobin is called as hemolysis. So நம்ம blood சரியா எடுக்கலனா இப்போ blood எடுத்து ஒரு சின்ன சிரிஞ்ச blood எடுத்து நம்ம என்ன பண்ணுவோம், needle எடுத்துட்டு we will transfer the blood into a test tube. But needle எடுக்காம நீங்க சின்ன போர் வழியா அனுப்பிச்சீங்கன்னா it will lead to hemolysis. Okay, so the destruction of the RBC, that it will cause the hemoglobin to get released. So fragility அப்படின்னா என்னது, easily breakable, susceptibility of the RBC to hemolysis or tendency to break easily. So fragility is of two types: osmotic fragility and mechanical fragility. Osmotic fragility என்ன, சடனா செல்ஸ் வந்து hypotonic solutionல போட்டா என்ன ஆகும், it will absorb more water and it will break, swell and break. மெக்கானிக்கல் ஃப்ரெஜிலிட்டின்னு என்னது, மெக்கானிக்கல் ட்ராமா, wound, நீங்க பிளட் எடுத்து ரொம்ப ஷேக் பண்ணாலும் என்ன ஆகும், it will lead to hemolysis. அதே மாதிரி in a person in a trauma or wound or burns, it will lead to mechanical fragility of the RBC. So normal conditions enna agum, I told you after 120 days the old RBC cells are destroyed in the reticuloendothelial system. Okay, so here this is a process called as hemolysis. This is a normal process after 120 days. Okay, the heme gets separated, globin gets separated, heme will be broken down to porphyrin and iron. Okay, and they will undergo some metabolic change. So that can happen in the presence of hemolytic agents called as hemolysins. So what are hemolysins? So what is the process of hemolysis? So what happens? The plasma, normally plasma and RBCs are in osmotic equilibrium. So they are, plasma and RBC are suspended in the plasma and they are in having an equilibrium. So when the equilibrium gets disturbed, that is suddenly if the RBCs are suspended in the hypotonic solution, it will get affected. Okay, it will undergo endosmosis, it will swell and it will break. So it will lead to the rupturing of the RBC and hemoglobin will be released. Okay, so that is hemolysis. So fragility test will be done to measure the resistance of the erythrocytes in hypotonic saline solution. So what kind of resistance the erythrocytes shows when they are immersed in a hypotonic solution. So how it is done? It is done by using sodium chloride solution at different concentrations. So you can use this sodium chloride to hemolyze, okay, to disrupt the RBC cells. So this is what is done. You can see there is no hemolysis fluid in the tube appears turbid. If hemolysis started, now you can see the red color. Turbidity is reduced, hemolysis is complete and the fluid becomes clear. So these are the observations of hemolysis. So it shows some fragility. Okay, that is the fragility test is done. That is after 20 minutes you see, no, after 6.6% no hemolysis. Just like the color and turbidity, here you have to see the index of fragility can be checked by seeing the percentage of fragility. Okay, the conditions. So the conditions, these are some of the conditions: hemolytic jaundice, antigen antibody reactions, poisoning by chemicals or toxins. When you are using the the artificial kidney dialysis, so during these conditions the hemolysis can take place. So we should ensure that the blood does not get hemolyzed during these conditions. Okay, so hemolytic jaundice happening because of the hemolysis. Okay, so these are some of the conditions. Okay, now these are some of the chemicals and substances called as hemolysins or hemolytic agents. okay, which will cause the destruction of the RBC. So there are some can be of chemical origin: alcohol, benzene, chloroform, ether, acid, alkalis, bile salt, saponin, chemical poisons, arsenal, carbolic acid, nitrobenzene. This is, no, when they are added to the blood, it will, or they are mixed in the blood, it will lead to hemolysis, or sometimes some the infection, bacterial infection, streptococcus, staphylococcus. They will secrete toxic substances into the blood, so that will also lead to hemolysis of the blood. Even the sea snake bite, like cobra, the venom will the lecithinase, it will also lead to destruction of the blood. So hemolysis from normal tissues. Normal cell tissues also secrete some hemolysis. Hemolysis are chemicals or substances that will cause the destruction of RBC. Okay, so these are what is seen here. First, what we have seen here is about the different blood indices or index. That is the ESR, PCV, MHC, color index, and all that, and about anemia and the different agents causing anemia, different types of anemia, and about hemolysin. What is hemolysin? Hemolysis and fragility. Okay, fragility of the RBC. So these are the different methods or different terms used for the diagnosis of some diseases in the blood. Is it clear?